Ford, who you represent, are correctly paid for the use of their images. How is that working for you with new media, with websites, with iPads, and everything involved in that?
I'm very clear about that. It depends on the amount of people who've seen the image.
Right.
Simple as that. You know, if you've got a poster on the King's Cross, millions of people will see it every day. You know, there's a quarter-page black and white line ad in Farmers Weekly. Farmers Weekly, is that right?
Yeah.
Farmers Weekly, then they're not going to.
Yeah.
You know, they're not going to see it. So
it's a straightforward usage deal as far as you're concerned.
yeah.
It's kind of...
Well, yeah, but the way it works is it's quite simple. For being commissioned in advertising, they're allowed one territory, 1 year, 2 media, whatever they might be, internet, press, poster, press policy, it doesn't matter. If they step outside that, it starts to change.
Right.
If they want to go 2 years, they're allowed 1 media, 1
Right.
territory. So in other words, they're allowed 2 years UK press.
Right.
Once they step outside that, say they want another media, because they're doing it for 2 years, they have to pay.
Right.
If they want worldwide, they have to pay. If they want Europe, they have to pay. You know, and if it's going to go to Japan and it's cigarettes, they've really got to pay. If it's going to go to America and it's cars, they're going to have to pay. You know?
Right. And what do you think it's vital that with the birth of the internet and photographers being able to have their own websites, a lot of photographers either decided not to have agents any longer, or alternatively thought that actually I don't want to give the percentage to the agent. Do you think it's really important for a photographer to have an agent?
Well, if you've got a good agent, that's false economy, because I guarantee you, anything you like, I will get them more than 25%.
Right.
For the particular job. I'll pay for myself for the job.
Right.
They wouldn't get anywhere near what I'll get them.
Right.
So that's that one done with. The other thing is that they can't, if they're on location up on Himalayan mountain, how are they going to get a portfolio into an agency in Japan?
Yeah.
Or coming for a pre-production meeting, which I can do on their behalf because I've got a relationship with them and with the art buyers and the agency tells them I can expect them capable of doing that. So, you know, it's all a question of you've got to have someone like Terence Donovan to play. I just now, after 35 years, I want someone in the mix for the first time.
Yeah.
Okay. The first thing I did for Terry was, he got a call from Ireland and they said, we want to use one of your pictures. He put the phone down. He said, oh, I can't do that.
Can't be bothered.
So I was with him in his office in Bond Street and I said to him, anything happening? He says, yeah, well, I got this call from Ireland, mate. I don't know, I just couldn't be bothered. I said, well, who was it? He said, oh, it's some agency in Ireland. So I picked up the phone, I called them, and I got him £10,000.
Right.
You know, so that's exactly why he wanted me there. And he said, I knew it was right that I got hold of it, because I knew that I just can't deal with all these things. And so that's why an agent's valid, because he will chase them. And that's my dedication, is to try and make sure that I get as much money from the guys as I can, but also treat the clients fairly and make sure that I will support the clients. If the photographer screws up, that we will together make it work as a team. Because that, at the end of the day, all we're trying to do is sell product in advertising and services.
Do you think that photographers understand or misunderstand the role of an agent?
I don't think the ones who've got them do. I think they might not like the role sometimes. And I think actually until recently, agents have been their own worst enemy. I mean, I've always considered a critical part of what I do is to assist the photographer in picture selection for the portfolios and what we're going to be presenting to agencies, clients in general. I think that's critical. I'm the one that's going to be doing that.
Right.
And the photographer can look at the picture that he thinks is brilliant because the girl turned up and it's for a bikini and she had a plaster cast from her thigh to her ankle and he managed to pull it off somehow.
That sounds like a specific story you're telling there, yeah.
It is, but anyway, and he managed to pull it off, but the picture's crap.
Right.
You know, and the portfolio's not with me all the time, so they look at this picture and go, that's not a good picture. And then I could step in behind a door and say, but you don't realise that girl came in with a plaster cast from the side to her ankle. Isn't that amazing? He did well. But I'm not there to do that always, so it's got to tell its own story. And photographers are so involved with their images, and that's the point of this, is that they don't necessarily select the right images to go in a book. So an agent should help them with that, and assist them, and make the book flow and be successful in the way that it's presented.
But I mean, it's a good point you raised, because I mean, I hear from a lot of photographers, and over the years I've always heard it. I took my book into an agent, and the first thing the agent wanted to do was reorder my book, and it's cost me a huge amount of money because I've got to reprint it all, and I don't even know why. They haven't even got me a job yet. But you see that as absolutely crucial.
Going back to Terence Donovan again, imagine there's a guy who's been shooting since the 60s when I was a kid. And he brought his book over and said, anyway, this is what I have at the moment. And I said, well, I can't work with it, Terence.
Yeah.
It's just not good enough. And I know what you've taken. I mean, I know the history of your work. And he was such a sort of wily guy. He said, well, went into his place in Bond Street and he had a wall about 20 foot wide, about 20 foot high in the studio. Just a couple in there with box archive images. And I went through the whole lot.
Yeah.
Produced a book that I felt with images, just put them all on the floor. I said, those are the images I would like. And unfortunately, there's only 3 in the book that you gave me that were remaining in there. Do you mind? And he said, not at all. You're the one who's going to be selling it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's interesting you say that about Terry, because I can remember going to his studio as well and him showing me his work, which was actually uncommissionable, of girls in stockings getting out of cars. You probably remember or may have seen those images of that time, and they were very dated. And yet he did have boxes of personal work, which he always had little sepia prints done, which were fantastic.
Exactly. Well,
but he wasn't showing them. But there you go.
Well, that's what I use, you see, and he couldn't divorce himself from the work that he liked.
Yeah.
I mean, he loved trumpet, didn't he, Terry?
Yeah.
So he wanted all girls with stockings and nakedness and stuff. He'd probably shag half of them anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Don't forget, we are actually, I know he's passed on, but even so, we are live on the way.
I don't think he did.
No, I don't think he did either.
Anyway, but the thing is, so he wanted to have that kind of image in there because that's what he liked, but it wasn't what was selling at the time.
No. But it's interesting because actually that objectivity to your work is something that's very difficult when you've given so much to creating those images, either financially or personally or emotionally, and then someone comes along and says, actually that isn't working.
Yeah, but it's not a question of that you should feel insulted. It's about the fact that you've asked a professional who knows what the marketplace is requiring. I mean, there's no difference to someone who's a furniture designer. You know, this chair here, which has got a steel frame, there's no point taking that to a shop that specialises in selling upholstered sofas.
No.
So I'm not going to buy that design.
Yeah.
And it's the same with photography. You know, you've got something which is not being bought right now, and they don't know that, you see. I'm in the front line.
Yeah, but I think that's a very interesting point as well, because a lot of photographers, especially when they're starting out, don't realise that they're not the ones going in with their book. That book has to stand up on its own, or alternatively, it has to go in with someone else.
The other thing they don't understand when they're young and when they're starting out is that they can't just let it go in terms of what they produce.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I represent, say, someone like John Offenbach, and his work covers every single ground: still lives, landscapes, fashion, beauty, every single aspect of photography he covers it. But because his reputation, he can get away with that.
Yeah.
And because he's so talented, every single picture, whether it's